Hi everyone and welcome to the third episode of Kathor Vaani, the first ever podcast series of I am Rohtak brought to you by the Student Alumni Committee. Today we have with us Mr. Ravi Vaid, who's working as a senior manager in Tata Capital. He completed his MBA from our college IIM Rohtak in 2016. He did his major in finance along with his minor in marketing strategy and IT. Following MBA, he joined ICICI and worked as a manager in Strategy Solutions Group. After 2 years of working there, he bonded with Yes Bank and worked as a senior relationship manager. And presently, he is working as a senior manager in Tata Capital. We are extremely privileged to have you here with us, sir. And along with that, a bit of extra happiness is you were also a part of us, a part of the student alumni committee when you were in college. So, looking forward for a wonderful session with you. Handing it over to Shivani.
So our first question to you is, Ravi, that due to the pandemic, all our lives have changed drastically. How do you manage the work-life balance during such difficult times?
I'll tell you something. I'm in the banking industry. So, I don't know if you guys have been following the news. What happened was, the RBI announced a moratorium. Okay. So, nobody had to pay any interest for the last 6 months between March to September. And that is actually the point where I joined my new job. So, life was actually pretty easy because we didn't have to do any monitoring, anything. But since September, the last almost 2 months now have been really, really hectic. I mean, I've been working nonstop. In fact, I have to confess the reason I had to delay this call was I had to finish an assignment and give it. So, in terms of work-life balance, what this has done is the pandemic that it's kind of blurred the lines between your personal and work life, which is I think is causing a lot of stress to a lot of people. It's not just me that I'm talking about. A lot of people that I talk to feel that now sort of there is no barrier between since there is no barrier, actual physical barrier between your home and your office, it has kind of caused a lot of stress and uh, given a lot of work to people that they knew it usually wouldn't do so much of it. So in terms of that, it has kind of been stressful. But overall, I think people are just getting used to it now. I can talk about a lot of industries where I see a lot of people going back to work and they're actually happy about it. I think they missed the socializing part, and it became so ingrained as a part of their daily commute or their daily routine that I think people are actually now glad that their life is going back to the way it was prior to the pandemic.
Our second question to you is that what do you think has changed in the banking sector due to the pandemic, and what changes are here to stay?
So for that, I think as such, so the inflection point, if I have to talk about Indian banking, that actually happened in a couple of phases. So again, because I have worked in the banking sector, I can only talk about that. The first change came in 2012, actually, when the RBI actually identified that we had a bad loan problem. And that's when they came up with a slew of measures, and they came up with all these loan restructuring schemes and provisioning norms to make banks accept the fact that things weren't as rosy as they appeared to be. So 2012 was one inflection point. The other was 2016. What happened in 2016 was when we had the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which came into being as a formal law. So since then, I would say a lot of cases in the banking sector, which were usually used to take almost decades to resolve, the process has been expedited to a very large extent. There have been a large number of recoveries and resolutions which have happened in a very, very time bound manner. Of course, the time bound manner when I speak about it was still more than what was envisaged when the bankruptcy law came in, but still, if you compare it with absolutes, it is probably one of the most efficient laws that has been passed in India in the last 5 or 6 years. And so, and now what has happened is but what the pandemic is now has done is that lenders have tightened their purses even more, that they're even more conscientious of the fact that who their lenders are, or sorry, who their borrowers are, and whom to lend to. Because what has happened is, because of these 6 months, a lot of businesses have seen consolidation where a lot of smaller players have actually either been merged with the bigger ones because they haven't been able to survive with the absolute, if I should say, that there's been absence of liquidity in the market in the last 6 months. So what I feel is that the pattern here is that over the last decade, if nothing else, we are getting more regulated, and it's becoming a more very risk averse market, I should say. So there used to be a time before, I say, I think 2012 or 2010, where the checks and balances which were there weren't in place because everyone was having a really good ride. But now in the last decade, things have changed a lot. There is a lot of pressure on regulators, on bankers to clean up the act. So, and I think these changes are here to stay. And that's what I feel is going to continue. That is going to be the overall trend. Yeah.
You worked with diverse industries. So, like, how do you battle the initial inertia to, when you change an industry, you have this initial jitter or,
Correct, correct.
this varied nervousness when you don't know. So, what would you advise to the current batch also? Should you like concentrate on varied industries or should you just be very focused on a single industry?
So I've worked in various companies which have been very, very different and diverse from each other. You can't even imagine. So ICICI I worked with, it is a very, very process oriented job. Okay, it's a huge organization. I mean, I kind of feel lost. So the first day I was there, I kind of felt lost over there because there are so many people, and even hierarchy wise, I mean, it was absolutely crazy. So then I went to Yes Bank. Yes Bank, the team that I worked in was given a lot of freedom to make a lot of independent choices. So even typically banks have a lot of hierarchies. So, but in spite of that, Yes Bank, the layers of people between, let's say, me and the head of the department or somebody who was actually one of the decision makers weren't that much. And even our team was given a certain degree of freedom to make choices and decisions, which normally I wouldn't have been able to do at ICICI, okay, being in a similar team. And right now, where I am at Tata Capital, I mean, there are only 15 employees in my entire team across India. And I have been given charge of an entire region. So everything, so the pressure was on me to make all the decisions. A lot of them, I wouldn't say all, but yeah, a lot of them for my region, which is now creating a different kind of pressure altogether. So your question, I think, so what you're asking is that how should students prepare for that, for working in various industries? I think the best way is, I think, to prepare for any industry that you're going to. Number one, you try and do a bit of homework to see that would you actually be willing to work over there. I mean, I see a lot of people who take up jobs without actually knowing anything about it. Now that is fine, but then the thing is that if you don't have any background knowledge, nobody's going to give you time basically. When if you join a new job, they'll expect you to know certain things, and I mean, so let's just say they won't be as kind as your teachers. They're not going to sort of extend your deadlines and all like that. So there are a lot of things that you need to be prepared for if you join a job. And otherwise, I think the thing is that do not go with any preconceived notions. So you'd be surprised that there are a lot of people who say they're very interested in finance, but when they do end up in a finance job, they end up being really disappointed because what they're actually interested in is financial subjects. So reading financial subjects and working on a job which actually deals with finance, they might be two very different things because you don't know what the job actually entails you to do every day. So similarly, if you're interested in marketing, but if you sort of join a company, it's very unlikely that you'll be given a marketing role from day one. You'll be expected to grind it out at sales. So again, you might be very disappointed. But the thing is that you have to keep an open mind, and you have to be patient basically to build a career. So I think the best analogy is that so college is like a sprint. So you have 6 trimesters, and you have to just sprint through one of them. You can see where one ends and the other starts. So you can probably see the finish line. But working a job is like a marathon. I mean, there is no end at sight. You just keep on, every day just keep going, and it's good if you can pick up pace. But uh, even if you're a bit slow, you're not going to lose out in the long run. But it takes time. to achieve goals over there. If it happens that by the time you get an internship you realize that this is not what you want to do, you still, I would suggest that try two things. One is you speak to the HR who gave you the internship or whoever your supervisor is, and see if you can get any project where it can be, you can probably do something in the field that you're interested in. If that doesn't work out, then I think the professional thing to do would be to contribute as much as you can, try and do your task, because at the end of the day you're going to be judged by it. And it's funny that it's a small world, that you say you never know when you might meet the people or somebody from that organization in the future, so you don't want too many people to have a bad impression by you. So all I mean is that even if the situation is that you grudgingly have to do something that you're not interested in, just give it your best, whatever you can. Do not I would advise people not to be unprofessional about it, and sort of shirk away from the basic responsibilities or tasks that you're given.
So you worked with TCS for over 2 years before
Correct.
joining the MBA.
Correct.
So how has like work life changed? Like what are the changes that you saw in your work life after doing MBA? What are the changes that MBA brought?
So I can only speak about my experience. So for a typical MBA batch, I think about 70 to 80 people are engineers, and from those who have work experience, 90% would have work experience working in a software industry. So it's a very very cliche thing. I'm the mother of all cliches, like engineering, TCS, MBA, finance. I've come full circle that way. So what I can say is, from my personal experience, when I worked at TCS, I was a part of a large team. Okay, and the tasks were all distributed. So there was a overall big task, and it was sort of distributed between everyone in the team. So all my post MBA assignments at ICICI Bank Yes Bank, you are given an entire project. So you have to manage whatever your project is. Now it might be small or big, but the thing is there is nobody else to sort of work on it with you. So you have to manage it on your own. So either you just so even if you're taking guidance from someone, which is fine because you have to do that, that person has to actually find extra time from his own regular assignments and help you out with it. So basically, you're on your own. So it's like you've been thrown into the deep end of the pool without any support, and there is no training and all. So TCS had a proper 3 month training and all. This is absent from, I'm pretty sure, all post MBA jobs, because they, except for maybe a week's induction or anything, they expect you to know everything, or at least they pretend that you do, and there you're expected to actually talk to people, interact with people, and find out how to work. Because one of the key lessons that I think that you learn after an MBA is that you might not know all the answers, but you're expected to sort of manage them. Like, however, just talk to people, figure it out, Google it out. You're expected to find a solution somehow, even if you don't know it when you join, or when you're given an assignment for that matter.
So, what would your advice be for somebody who lands up in an internship that is a finance based but wants to do a major in some other field, say analytics maybe? So, how should one go about it? So, like the current batch has a lot of engineers. Like
Correct.
we're almost 50% of engineers in the current batch, and a lot of them want to pursue finance as their major. So, what would
Correct.
your advice for them be? Because people are usually skeptical if they're from a very technical background.
So my
Since you've
first
been
question
through the very
would
similar journey.
I know. So my first question would be, why do you want to pursue finance? Because see, the thing with finance is that finance is sort of this romanticized subject, because engineers assume that, oh, they're good with numbers, so let's do finance. Um, in fact, even I chose finance, not for sort of similar reasons, but not because of that. So mine was more exclusion based. That this is not what I want to do, so I'll probably do this. It was like that. But yes, so a lot of people do want to do finance because they think they're more comfortable with numbers, with something, let's say, they feel is too abstract, like marketing. Uh, Fair enough, probably. But what I would suggest is that do not again go with any preconceived notions, because you'll be surprised with the kind of other very interesting subjects that are there that you could study. For example, those who feel that marketing, that finance is all number based, I mean, you should look at marketing. Marketing today is all about analytics, and it's got more math than I mean, it is there is a lot of math involved in that as well. But if you do want to do finance, sure, go for it. I would suggest that do a few courses on Coursera before you actually zero in on what you want to do. So I would suggest that you do a sort of a micro or a macroeconomics course before you join um campus, or you probably can check out a basic corporate finance course just to get a structure of what things are and what are the kind of subjects, and if you'd be comfortable studying them in the future, like that. But otherwise, see, the good thing about an IM is that you can mold your courses, and you don't have to choose any of your courses before you, I guess, the third trimester, because I think that's when you have to tell the college what you want to study in the fourth trimester onwards. So for the first year, I think I would suggest that everybody just keep an open mind and just see what your interests are and what would you like to study at the end of the day. Because actually, the truth is that it doesn't really matter if you studied finance or marketing. You can do any kind of job after that. Because whatever you study in the first year, that's more than enough to take care of any kind of job. And I mean any, like banking or even marketing and all. So after that, it's just a matter of interest. What do you like studying? Because if you like something, then so number one, you'll automatically read about it more and develop skills in that. And number two, you'll actually enjoy doing that kind of work. So so I would suggest that, yeah, you don't pick the subject, pick your interests and choose your subjects accordingly.
So, what are the industrial trends that you think that B school students must be aware of? Is there any kind of pre-planning that should be done
With regards to what exactly?
with regards to what we want to pursue in our futures?
Again, that's a very abstract thing. I mean, I can't tell you guys what you should pursue. My only thing is, again, be open to experience and read a lot. So I can't stress this enough that how important it is to just know about stuff. Like you just go through newspapers, read editorials, read just generally be aware of what's going on, trends in technology, not just business, anything, because you never know what might actually become a business opportunity. At the end of the day, everything's business. So just keep your minds open and don't pigeonhole yourself and think that this is. I mean, if you do have a focus industry, it's great. But the truth is that 90% of people don't, and even of us who do know that where they want to work in, it is because of a preconceived notion or a bias that they have. There are very few people who have worked in a business environment before their MBA, then they do an MBA to enhance their study and then want to go back to that. So most of us who have work experience, who sort of do an MBA, the kind of jobs we get after that are very, very different. So the truth is that none of you guys at least have any idea what post MBA jobs are like. So if you don't, so I would just suggest that just be open to experiences. That's it. No preconceived notions.
As you already said, we have no idea about how businesses work, and many of us are freshers in this
No,
batch.
I don't have
So,
any
what
idea
would
how businesses work as well. I'm talking about jobs, like post MBA jobs. They're very, very different from pre MBA ones for those who have work experience. So yeah,
yeah.
so then one question that I get asked a lot is it an advantage to have work experience? It is, I would definitely say, but again, I think especially for people who pursue their MBAs from India, I mean, pre and post MBA jobs are entirely different. So you're probably as good as a fresher in terms of being ready for the job. But probably I would say that the only advantage you have is probably you'll have an advantage on the software aspects, that you sort of know what the email protocols are and all. I assume that and all. So that is the only real advantage you'd have.
So, is there anything that a fresher should probably do to bridge the gap between there's a gap created because we've never worked in a corporate before, or never worked anywhere before if we were
Correct,
freshers.
correct.
So, is there something that you would like to advise to somebody who's a fresher and to bridge the gap between that?
So again, I really don't think that you're at a disadvantage if you haven't worked before. It is just that um, during your 2 month internship, just get familiarized with what a typical corporate environment expects you to do. think there are very basic things like so companies typically expect a certain level of discipline, which is like being on time and keeping people informed about what your activities are and finishing your task on time, or at least then informing people if you're stuck somewhere. So just follow that and you should be fine. You're at no disadvantage compared to somebody who has work experience. That's what I feel, at least. So you're all on the same page. It's fine.
That sounds like a relief.
It is. It
But
is.
so, with the placement season fast approaching, what would be your the advice to us? Like, what
With
should we
placement
do to
season.
be
So,
prepared?
uh, so my, so are you talking about your summer internships, right?
Both, like for the
For
final year
the
students, they'll
for
be
the
having their
seniors.
final placements.
Okay, so I'll break this down in two parts. For freshers, I guess. So the thing is that you can be. So I would say you target a good company, because right now in the pandemic, it's very important that you go to an organization that can give you a good. So it is very likely that you'll have a remote internship as well, looking at how things stand. So it's important to join an organization, I would feel, that has the resources and at least wants to invest in you that much that they want to give you an internship experience that is worth your while. So my advice would be try and get into a company of your choice. With regards to the domain, as I said, the bigger companies always have internships available in multiple domains. So you can, even if you get into something that you're not very interested in, I'm talking about a domain that way, it is flexible. It can be flexible, and it's fine. And most of these internships are very generic in nature as well. So do not worry too much about that. For final year students, my advice would be, you probably are majoring in something, so definitely try and get placed in a company where uh, in the domain that you're majoring in. For that, I would say just stick to very, very basic stuff. So a lot of people try and complicate things a lot. But what I've seen in interviews is that if you can have a good conversation and if you just know your basics really well, you'll sail through. So the thing is that, and for that, even your very, very basic things are enough. So for example, if you're majoring in finance, uh, just know what your balance sheet items are from and what your typical P&L items are, or how do you use discounted cash flows and IRR, very, very basic stuff. Because the thing is, during pressure, people tend to forget very, very basic things, and then it sort of gives a bad impression. So, and the second thing is, it's okay to say I don't know in an interview. I mean, unless it's something very, very basic, it's perfectly fine if you admit that you don't have all the answers. So people are hesitant to, I've seen, say that sometimes, and it sort of gets them into trouble. But from my personal experience, I've said I don't know in a lot of interviews, and I've discovered it hasn't been a problem. Luckily, I.
We would love to thank Mr. Ravi Vaid for making time from his busy schedule and being with us today. We truly had an enriching experience, sir. It was true pleasure listening and learning from your experiences. We are really grateful to have had you as our guest for the day. Thank you so much, sir. So, looking forward for more such engaging episodes of Kathor Vaani. Stay tuned. We'll be back with yet another guest soon.